Hey guys, and welcome back to our Tkinter project series here on the Coder's Legacy channel. In this video, we're going to be continuing our syntax highlighter. So in the previous video, we actually made the entire base for it. We added tags and marks, which we use to highlight basic keywords like while, for, import. In this video, we're going to actually add in some really interesting things, like we're going to add in the ability to highlight strings and comments using regex patterns. And then we're going to add in the ability to indent code automatically when you press the enter key. Okay, it'll detect whether it's in a code block or not and automatically adjust itself. Okay, so we're going to be adding all this today. And you know what? Let's go ahead and change the title. This is more like a code editor now. And be warned, the code that I'm going to teach you guys here today isn't exactly the best. So it's something you guys can improve upon. Okay, so don't think of it as something really amazing or something that's the industry standard or anything. Okay, it's just something written by me in a personal project, okay, that I wanted to share with you guys because I think it's really cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so as you can see, all our code here. Okay, we have our tag highlight function over here, we have our check function over here. Okay, so we need to add in one more function. Let's do that down here. Okay, above the update function and below the check function. I'll call this one scan. Okay, and what this is going to do is actually really similar to our tag highlight function, but I just don't want to, I just don't want to reuse the same function. I could reuse the same thing, but I just don't want to because it's going to get a little more complicated. I'm going to have to edit this function up a bit, and it's going to look a little messy. So for explanation's sake, I'm going to make a separate function. Okay, but the starting phase will mostly be the same. Okay, so let's go down here and define variables. Start, end, okay, and then I'll create something called my count. Okay, same as before if you remember. Okay, int var. Okay, so now we need to write our regular expressions. Okay, I'll make a list called regex patterns, and here I'm going to begin writing my regular expressions. Okay, so we need two regular expressions, one for identifying strings, one for identifying comments. Okay, now regular expressions are very powerful and very interesting because they're very flexible. They're flexible ways of identifying patterns. Okay, basically when you're searching for a word, you normally write the entire word, right, and then basically search for it, right? That's how it works. You look for exact matches. But regular expressions allow you to search for things in a very general sense. Like you just need to know some general features regarding what you're searching for, okay, and then you can search for it. I know that was a little complicated, but just watch what I'm going to do now, and then hopefully you'll understand. Okay, I'm just going to make these two raw strings over here. Okay, these are basically a good way of basically writing strings. Okay, when you don't want special characters or something to interfere. Okay, I think like backslash or something could cause problems, so that's why we use raw strings. Okay, because then no formatting takes effect on these. Okay, something along those lines. You can look it up if you're interested. But basically over here, I'm going to begin writing my regular expression, and the first one I'm going to write is for my comments. Okay. Now, what is the identifying feature for a comment in Python? It begins with a hashtag, a hash symbol, and then I'm going to tell my regular expressions that that anything can be after this comma. Okay, anything. And in regular expressions, you can actually look this up online. This entire table, but a dot means any character. It means any character can be there. Okay, the dot means that anything can be after the hash symbol. Okay, and then I'm going to add asterisk, which means that there can be any number of any type of character. So basically, I'm saying that the pattern to look for is something like this: comment sign, and then any character can be there, A, D, S, any number, any special character, anything can be there, and any number of them can be there. Okay, that's what I'm telling my regular expression. I'm even telling it that they can be 0. I'm telling it that it can just be a single hash sign as well. That's what this regular expression means. See, in just 3 characters, I basically was able to pack in that much information. That's the power of regular expressions. Okay. The next thing I want to do is define the regular expressions for my strings. It's going to be pretty similar. I'm going to write, I think, yes, first I want to make the double quotation marks. Okay. Let's just make some space over there. Okay, these are the double quotation marks. Okay, because that's the identifying feature behind the string in Python. Okay, so I'm going to say that within these quotation marks, there can be any character and any number of that character. Okay, that's what I'm going to tell it. So basically, we have 4 characters here in total. Basically, this is telling it that look for quotation marks, and there can be anything in the middle. Okay, that's what this regular expression means. Okay, so I hope you understood that, and now we'll actually begin writing the code. Alright, so basically, let's begin the for loop. For pattern in regex patterns, okay, I want you to self.t1, that's our text widget, and we need to create some marks now. So we'll use the mark set function. What's the name of the mark? Let's just make start and end. Okay, and what's the starting index? It's going to be start, this variable that we defined up here. And what have I done? This is supposed to be start, okay, not end. Next, I'll make the mark for the end, okay, which is end. Okay, great. Now over here, I'm going to do num is equal to self.regex patterns, was it? No, regex patterns is just like this, okay? We didn't add self. So I'm going to do regex patterns dot index pattern, okay? And we'll add in int over here, int conversion, just in case, okay? And then we'll set up the while loop, okay, the infinite while loop. Now this looks pretty familiar, doesn't it, to what we did earlier? And that's because it is. You can actually go ahead back here, and let me show you something. You can actually go back here and turn on regular expressions is equal to true, and then just adjust things a little bit to basically allow regular expressions to be in here as well. You just need to add them into this, basically. Okay, that's all you need to do, really, but we'll just leave that for now. Okay, so back to this. And here we need to use the same function as before. Let's just go and copy that over here, okay? Copy this over here, let's just be a little quick about this, okay? And change this to start, okay? Change this to end, okay? And let's just change that over there to my small capital count, okay? Regular expressions is equal to true, okay? Remember that. And this to pattern, okay? We're ready now. We'll set up our break case if index is equal to empty, then break. Okay, that's our break case. And now we need to begin identifying what to do. Because if we've reached this point over here, that means we've succeeded. So I'm going to do if num is equal to 0, then do this. If elif num is equal to 1, then do this. Okay, because we have 2 regex patterns in there. Okay, so we'll just do this. Okay, and what is it that we're going to do? We need to think about this. Okay, what am I going to do? If we detected the comment, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go here and say self.t1.tag add. The first parameter here is going to be the tag, okay, the tag that we want to add. So I'm going to do self.tags, open up the square bracket over here, and now which one shall it be? This is our self.tags list. So I want to pick red for the comments, okay? I want to pick green for the strings, okay? So I think it'll be index number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 for the comments and 3 for green, okay? So back down here, I'll write 4 over here, okay? And now we need to specify the start point and the end point, okay? So what's this going to be? The start point will be index, obviously, from where we first found that pattern, and the end point, okay, this is a bit tricky, okay? We'll have to figure that out in a minute. Let's just copy paste this here and change this to 3 for now, okay? And now we need to figure out what are the endpoints, okay? What's the endpoint going to be for the comment, okay? And this is the comment one, okay? So what's the endpoint going to be? We want it to be the end of the line, okay? We want the endpoint to be the end of the line, basically. So how are we going to do that? Well, I'll just use a little interesting technique with string concatenation. Then we don't need to do formatting all the time. Okay, the string formatting technique, we don't need to do that all the time. So I'll just write plus line end, okay? And this will just add line end onto this, okay? And so I'll basically do this from the start point to the end of the line, okay? So perfect, we're done. Okay, but we need to specify the end point for the strings. Okay, what's this end point for the string going to be? Well, this isn't too hard either. it's basically going to be, let's go ahead and use that string formatting technique, otherwise it'll be a little weird. Okay, I'm going to copy paste this over here. Okay, because personally I always have a hard time writing this. I just prefer to write it once and copy paste it everywhere. Okay, so over here, yes, I want index to go into there. Okay, and yeah, I think we're all done actually. Yeah, this is it. It's the exact same thing. Basically what I'm going to do here with string is that the start is obviously going to be the index, okay, the starting index. And what's the end going to be? It's going to be the end of the string, obviously. And remember, what does count store? What does my count store? I mean, it's basically stores the length of the pattern found. Okay, so basically if the string found, the string that we found over here, if there were 10 characters in the middle, then it will return to us that length, basically. And we can just add that into the index, like we're doing over here, and that'll give us the endpoint. Okay? There's just one more line we need to add, and then we're done. Okay? I mean, we're done with the string and comment part, I mean. So, what is wrong? Okay, there. So, I'm gonna just add one more line. What is this line that we need to add? Well, basically, we need to move the pattern, right? We need to move the index. We need to change the start point. Otherwise, we'll basically keep looping infinitely. Okay, and that's going to cause problems because we'll just end up with the same pattern will be searched over and over again. Okay, so I'm going to change the start point. I'm going to do self.t1.markset. Okay, and I'll change the start pattern over here. And what am I going to change it to? I'll just change it to one line down, or maybe. Wait, that just sounds a bit off. I mean, there can only be one comment per line, but there can be 2 strings per line or 3. So if I change it by one line, if I change the start position, if I do something like +1 line, then that's going to cause problems because if there's more than one string per line, we won't be able to detect it. So I think we should just do this. Another copy paste, as weird as it sounds. I think this will work out, hopefully. I think this will work for both. And let's just bring the pour update function back there, okay? I think this will work. I think this will work for both. Basically, if we just put the endpoint, okay, make it the endpoint, that'll work. If we change the start point to the endpoint of either the comment or the string that we found. So let's cross our fingers and call the scan function in update and pray that it all works out. Okay, this is something weird. What's going on here? Bad index start. Okay, and on what line is this problem occurring? I see. Okay, so I took a bit of a break and I actually sat down and identified some of the errors in our program, and as well I also discovered something else pretty interesting which I'll share with you in a minute. Okay, so the current problem we're having is because of this. There's no such thing as a start index. I'm not sure why I did that. There's only something for end, okay? There's no such thing as start, okay? It's just 1.0, okay, which will basically point to the start of the text widget, okay? So that's one problem solved. The other problem is here in this regex pattern, okay? There aren't supposed to be any spaces in here, okay? I just did that for clarification and, to space that out a bit, but it turns out that actually caused problems, okay? So don't do that. Okay, so yeah, that's it. And let's run our code now. Now let me try writing a comment. Okay, I'll write something like random comment. You can see it's working perfectly fine. Okay, now let me write a string. Let's pretend like we have a print function over here, and I'll write hello world. Okay, and you can see that it's now working. Okay, so yeah, and if I do this, okay, see, that's a problem. That's a problem because we now have this commented, but this didn't turn red. Okay, it's still being treated as a string. To further point this out, I copy pasted some code off the internet, okay, which I'll paste over here, so you guys can see exactly what's going on here. You can see that there are problems being caused. Okay, you can see that the if over here is being highlighted, from over here is being highlighted. And all this stuff is being highlighted even though it's in comments. Okay, so we need to fix this. Okay, and I wonder what happens if I do something like this. Yeah, see, there are problems. Okay, even in that string, it's being highlighted. Okay, so we need to somehow fix all this. and that's what actually I discovered, because I was having trouble figuring out the cause. I initially thought that maybe it's because I thought that maybe self.scan needs to be called after tag.highlight, tag highlight, but it turns out that didn't affect it. So I just kept messing around with the code until I discovered that changing the order of the tags in which they were configured, that actually changes how they're colored. For example, I'm going to now move red all the way to the back, okay, over here. I'm going to configure this one last, okay. I like to think of this as priority. The last one has the highest priority, and the first one has the lowest priority. The first one can be overwritten by any one of these four, and the last one cannot be overwritten by any of them. That's how I'm currently looking at it as. Now let's paste the code again, and hold on, let me copy paste that again. Okay, so look at that. All of our comments are now working perfectly fine. You can see? It's all working perfectly fine. And that's because I moved the configuration for the red tag at the end. That means that the red tag will basically have the ability to override any one of these tags. Okay, it can override all of them, and which is what we want, because a comment overrides anything. You write a string in a comment, you write whatever in a comment, the comment will turn red, regardless of what you wrote inside of it. Now there's still one thing left, which is the string. For instance, if I write, I am from the US, okay? If you write like that, we can still see this being highlighted. So let's fix this by moving the configuration for the green tag down here, okay? I want it to be below the red one, okay? I want the comments to have a higher priority. I want the comments to be able to override the string, but I want the string to be able to override everything else. So let's try this again. I'll write print, hello, I am from the US. Okay, and look at that. It just overrode everything. Okay, so yeah. So that's all well and good. And we've now completed almost all of our syntax highlighter or code editor, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, one thing, I just want to make this a bit larger, okay? I don't know about you, but I think that this is a bit small. I'll just increase the height a bit, okay, to like 25. And maybe increase the width a bit to 90, okay? And yeah, that's better, I guess. Okay, one thing we can also do is change the font size, okay, if you guys are interested. Where do we do that? Yeah, over here. Font is equal to Verdana, for instance. I can do something like that, okay, and do 12. Let's just try that out. I'm not sure whether the Verdana font will even work out over here, but because there is a bit of thing of supported fonts and all, okay. So let's just try it out. I'll write print. Nope, it still looks the same as that. Oh, yeah, okay. So basically, I've only currently applied that on the tags. So that's why it's only appearing on the tags. Well, let's just, well, I'll show you how to change it for all of them, okay, just as a nice little bonus. Option, add, okay, then do this, okay. I'll change it for all fonts, okay, in the text widget, and then just specify the font type. Okay, so now it's all changed. It's about time we moved on to indentation. Now, I know this is going to be a little tough, okay, indentation, but, well, you don't get anything by, slacking off, right? You gotta put in some effort, so I hope you guys will be able to focus for the next 10 minutes, and hopefully you'll be able to fully understand what I've done here with indentation, okay? In concept, it's not too hard, okay? It's just about 10 to 15 lines of code, okay? So let's stop thinking about it and just begin, okay? So the very first thing, let me just talk a bit about it. How does indentation work? Basically, what we want to do here is that in Python, as you all know, how are code blocks defined? In C++ and stuff, we use those curly brackets, right, to define code blocks. But in Python, how do we determine that? When do we indent in Python, right? So we actually indent when there's a semicolon, okay? When the semicolon happens, then that defines a code block, okay? And then we indent, okay? The code block over here for the class is basically this whole thing, okay? And then the code block, there's another code block over here defined by the init function, which is basically the init function all the way till here. Okay, and the same goes for the tag highlight function and etc, etc. Okay, and then there are other then you can also see over here that it indents and stuff. Okay, but basically what I'm trying to say is that the code indents when there's a semicolon. Okay, so that's our first goal. Okay, that's what we're going to do in the start. We're going to try to find that if there's a semicolon when we press enter. Okay, so that's where we're going to start. The very first thing I want to do is actually bind a function to the enter key of our keyboard. So I'm going to use .bind, and if you don't understand key binding, I'll include a video for that in the description below, so don't worry. Okay, so this is pretty simple. So I'm just going to say return over here. Return is the name of the enter key. Okay, and then I need to over here write the function which I'm going to bind it to. Okay, this takes a parameter, so I'm going to write a lambda event instead of just lambda, like that. Okay, and then over here I'm going to write the function that I want to be called. I haven't made this yet, but I'm going to call it indent. Okay, and this will take this parameter lambda event, okay, like this. But I'm going to do actually event.widget. Okay, because the event is basically the event that has occurred. If I do event.widget, then it'll pass in the widget that triggered this thing. Okay, triggered the event basically, and then we're going to use that widget to basically we're going to work on that widget. Okay, so actually let me just make the function over here and you'll understand that way. Okay, I'll just make it below the scan function. Okay, now watch this. Indent, okay, self, and this will take the parameter widget. Okay, and then this widget is what we're going to work on. Okay, which is basically the text widget. Okay, so yeah, I'll just put that there for now. Did I write self.indent or indent? Okay, good. I wrote self.indent. Great. Now I'm going to come back down here and we're going to begin working. Okay, so my code is going to look something like this. If the previous indent was semicolon, then do this. Otherwise do this. Basically, that's the very basis of our code. Okay, either we find a semicolon or either we don't. Okay, so yeah, the first thing we need to do is actually find out whether the previous point at which our insert cursor was at, was it semicolon or not. So we're going to be working a lot with indexes and stuff here. So that's our first goal. Okay, and yeah, let's work on that. I'm actually going to change this to previous index. Okay, alright, so if previous index is this, then indent. Okay, over here we're going to indent, otherwise no indent. Okay, that's the basis behind it. Now let's find that index. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is find index. Okay, this is the index of our cursor before it goes down, because remember, something important is that when the enter key is pressed, this function gets called and the cursor has not yet been handled. Okay, meaning that function which basically moves the cursor down and everything, which automatically happens, you know, that hasn't been executed yet. Okay, this is important to know. Okay, so if I do something like this, self.t1.index and insert, okay, this is similar to end. Okay, insert basically returns the index of the insert cursor. Now I need to find out whether the last index was a semicolon or not, right? So I need two indexes, okay, because I need two indexes because the get function actually takes two. Okay, it doesn't take one. So I can't actually return the character without two indexes. So I'll make a new variable called index2, and I'm going to use this technique over here. Let's copy paste again. Okay, and there's no my count.get anymore. I'm just going to plus one into this. Okay, just think about it. The insert cursor is over here, right? So let's just see what happens. Okay, so previous index, I'll print this out. Okay, by the way, previous index, no, hold on. Previous index is equal to self.t1.get index and index2. I might be wrong about this, so I'm just going to try this out by printing. Okay, I'll see what's being printed out on screen. Okay, and you guys can take a look at it as well as I do it. So print something, okay, and then I'll put semicolon. Nothing was printed out. Okay, nothing is getting printed out. So, but there's basically blank spaces getting printed out, or maybe a new line of character is getting printed out. Okay, I think I know how to fix this. Let's change this to minus, okay, and change this to index 2 and this to index. Let's just call this index 1, by the way. Okay, now let's try that again. If, okay, silly mistake. Where is it? Index 1. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay, good. We got it. Okay, and we can now see that the semicolon is there. Okay, perfect. Actually, it's not actually the semicolon. It's just printing out the last character. Okay. So, yep, that's good. This is now working. We can now get the value of the previous index. Okay. So now what's our next step? Well, we're going to determine whether to indent this or not. Okay, and if this is a semicolon, we want to indent this. Okay, and let's go ahead and do that then. So the first thing we want to do actually is to go and indent something. Okay, to actually put in some blank space. But before that, there's one more statement I want to include, which is return break. Okay, now why am I doing this? Well, basically, as I've said before, is that basically when you press the enter key, basically the cursor key, okay, the insert cursor, which is basically this thing over here, where you see my mouse, okay, that is basically handled. Okay, it's moved to the next line. It's automatically adjusted according to indentation or whatever. Okay, but basically we are moving it from automatic adjustment to manual adjustment. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is return the break statement, so that when it gets returned, it breaks the automatic function. Basically, the return break line over here is going to prevent its own handling from running. Okay, its own function from running, which means that we're responsible for moving it to the next line, for indenting it and whatever. Okay, I'm doing this so that it doesn't interfere with us. Okay, so that we can work independently of it. Okay, it's just a good way of doing it. Okay. Otherwise, you might end up in conflicts. Okay, the automatic adjustment may do something, and you may be doing something. Both of you may do the same thing, and that'll cause problems. So just do this. Okay. So over here, I'm gonna go and actually add in some spacing. Okay, I'm gonna do self.widget. Okay, and remember we're doing widget over here. And actually, come to think of it, I should have used the widget over here. Let's just try and keep up the naming convention that we're following so far. Okay, so I'm gonna do self.widget.insert. Okay, and remember, insert takes two parameters. The first parameter is the index at which we need to insert it. Okay, the blank space. So I'm going to do, I want to put it at index 1, and of course I don't want to insert blank space at index 1. I want to insert a new line and then blank space. So new line plus blank space. Okay, I'll do 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's 5 spaces. Now I need to go and adjust the mark for insert. Okay, because I've adjusted the index. Sorry, I've put in the space. Now I need to actually update the insert mark as well. Okay, so insert plus plus how much? One line plus how much? 5 characters. What am I doing? Sorry, 5 characters. And again, you can use the more proper format over there if you want to. Okay, I just like to do this to keep it simple. Okay, so I think we're done here. Actually, we're not done completely. Obviously, there's still some things we need to work out. There's still one thing we're missing. Okay, which is what we're going to be working on. But in a very basic sense, we're done. I think. So let's run this and see what we've done so far, what we've accomplished so far. So I'll write. Okay, there's already an error. What is this? Window object has no attribute widget. Okay, and that's because, of course, we don't need to add self with widget. Okay, so just remove all that and then run this again. Okay, and I'll write if semicolon and I'll press enter, and there was an error. Okay, that the index over here didn't turn out too well. What's wrong with this? Okay, I think I know what to do. I think I know what the problem is. We need to do this basically, okay? This will actually work out. And actually looks a lot neater as well, okay? Because it's all part of one string. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this again. I'll write if semicolon, I'll press enter, and voila, we indented. Okay, and now everything's working great. You see? But look at that. There's still one problem. I pressed enter after that, after I ended that line, and I moved to the next line. I don't want that to happen. Okay, I want to basically keep the indentation, and that's the feature we're missing. We're missing the automatic indentation handling, something like that. But basically, we are indenting after the semicolon, but our program is unable to determine that this line is already indented. So we need to maintain that indenting, and the next line should start from here, like something like print world. Okay, so this is what we're missing so far. Okay, and yeah, otherwise the indentation is working just fine. That seems to be a bit weird at times, but yeah, it's working out. Okay, and again, I hope to try and resolve as many bugs as I can and stuff, but I don't expect to actually resolve all of them. So by the end of this video, there might still be one or two. If you guys want to fix those, then that's great. Let me know how you did in the comment section below. So, but yeah, let's actually proceed with what we were doing. Okay, so what I want to do actually is locate the last indent. Okay, I want to find out that the line above, like the last line, okay, from which we are moving forward, what is the indent on that line? Is it already indented? Is it not indented? If it has indentation, then how much? That's what I want to find out. So I'll make a new variable called previous indent, and we'll be working with this. So over here, basically, I want to find the previous indent start. Okay, I want to find the start of the line. Okay, or let's just call this previous indent line. Okay, because basically right now I want to find the start of that line. Okay, on which we basically were moving from. Okay, that's the first line. Okay, and the second line is the one we're moving to. Okay, so let's just call them the first and the second line. The first line is the one we're moving from, from which we're indenting to the second line. Okay, so let's just refer to them that way. So over here I'm going to do index 1 plus line start. Okay, this will basically give me the start of the line. Okay, and if I print this out, you'll see this when I run this code. Okay, you'll understand what this is. Okay, but I want to make the previous indent variable again because we do need this. Okay, and now basically I need to find out what is the indent, right? So for instance, let's take a look at this line over here. There appear to be roughly 4 spaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. There are 5 spaces. Okay, so how am I going to determine that? Well, I'm going to make a new function called self.getIndex. Okay, and I'm going to pass in the previous indent line. Okay, I'm going to pass this in. Okay, I'm going to go down here and actually make it now. I'm going to call it def get index. Okay, it takes self obviously, and then it takes an index, and what it does basically that it checks self.t1. Okay, self.t1, and which index are we looking at? Hold on, I want to wrap this up in a while loop actually. Okay, I'm going to keep running this code. You'll understand why. And actually I just remember something. Last time I wrote this code in my prototype version, I actually just used a single parameter and get. So let's try that again. Okay, I'm going to type this over here. Okay, if it is equal to a space, an empty space, then what I want you to do is increment it. Okay, let's just go grab that code again from here. Okay, come down here, paste it, and say index is equal to index, okay, plus 1. So I think you guys understand what I'm doing here, right? I'm basically incrementing it every time it detects a space. Okay, and return index. Great. And once it does not detect a space, once it reaches something like a character or something, it's going to return that index. So it's some very simple and very easy code. So let's go back up here, and I'll go ahead and print this out. Print previous indent. Okay, and just for the sake of formatting and stuff, let me write previous indent over here. Okay, just so you guys have a good time while trying to understand it. Okay, so basically, let's just run this code now and see what's going on. What's wrong over there? Okay, sorry. And let's run this code. And if, okay, look at that. Something seems a bit off to me. Huh. Okay. There isn't supposed to be a 1.3 over there. So is there? That seems a bit off to me. Hold on. Okay, I need to do a few fixes over here. For one, I need to actually use the index function a little more to actually fix some of these issues over here. Okay, I think that's enough actually. So let me just test this to see if it's working correctly, then I'll explain it. Okay, and just one more test. Looks good so far, and yep, it's working good. Okay, let me explain this. Basically what I did over here with dot index is that you see this plus line start, okay, because previously it was just concatenated, okay, and that was basically affecting it in future stuff as well. Like when I passed the previous indent line into the getIndex function, it was in there, okay, it was in that index. Basically, if you print out index, then you would get something like 1.3 and then a line start, okay, that's wrong. I didn't want 1.3 and then line start written in front of it. I wanted an index which said 1.0, okay, I wanted the start of that line, okay, so that's why we use widget.getIndex, okay, because it basically returns an absolute index value, okay. So basically you can think of it as combining these two and returning the end result. 1.3 and line start means 1.0, right, but it was still written as 1.3 line start. So what index does here is that it returns the absolute value for that index, okay, it sort of like executes that index and then returns a single value. So yeah, now let me just run that again and show you what we've done so far, because we're doing pretty well. So we just have one more concept to cover and then we're done. So yeah, basically what happened here is that I pressed if and I did the semicolon, okay, and then what happened is that it says the previous indent line was 2.0, okay, and that makes sense because this is line 2, the if is on line 2, and the previous indent is also 2.0, and the previous indent is 2.0. Why? And that's because there is no indent, okay, if is not indented, right, there's no space after if, before if. But if I do print something like hello and then I press enter, what's going to happen is that previous indent line is going to be 3.0, but previous indent is going to be 3.0 plus 5 characters, okay, that's because there's 5 characters of spacing over there. And you know what, let's actually go back here and say widget.index index, and let me try that again and show you what this does really. If what happened here, of course, sorry, self.t1 widget is not defined in this function. Okay, so I'm going to do if print hello and enter, and then we get 2.5 instead of 2.0 plus 1 character plus 1 character plus 1 character. Instead we just get 2.5, and that's way better. Okay, so what's next? Okay, so now we want to basically add in, this is our handling code, we need to add in the concept of previous indent line and stuff over here. The first thing I'm going to do is actually remove this, because it's kind of useless and we don't need it, because if there is no indent or anything, there's no need to indent, then we don't need to do anything, right? So why bother keeping this? So bye. Now this is our final stretch, so let's aim to finish this. I want to add a new condition that elif previous indent is not equal to previous indent line. Basically, I'm saying here is that there's no need to indent because there's no semicolon, but the previous indent does not match the start of the line, which means that we are indented forward. Okay, that basically means we're in a code block. So we need to do something about that. So over here, I'm going to manually take control again. So I'll just return break. Okay, and then I'm going to just do a few basic things. I'm going to copy paste this over here actually and just make some minor adjustments. I don't need to indent, so I'm going to remove that, and I will remove that. Okay, and there's one more thing I'm going to do though. So I'm going to do, what is it? The function that I want to add? Yeah, it's self.widget.compare. And this is the last new function, the last new concept we have here. Okay, the compare function. This takes 3 parameters. This takes 2 indexes and an operator. Okay, the operator that you want to be comparing them with. Okay, so it's a pretty nice function. So I'm going to do previous indent and which operator? The greater than operator and previous indent line. So basically this loop over here is gonna run while the previous indent, which can be something like 5 spaces, 10 spaces, 15 spaces, 20, 30, depending on how much, how nested we are into code blocks. And this here is the start of the line. Okay, like for instance, this could be, for example, assuming an indent space of 5 characters, this could be line 2 and 10 characters. And this, on the other hand, could be 2 lines. That's all it can be. Okay, because this is the start of the line. Remember that. So basically, what I'm trying to say here, actually, if you didn't already understand, I'm gonna actually, with each iteration of this loop, I'm gonna go and increment this. And let's use this operator. So I'm gonna increment it with plus 5 characters. Okay, I think you understood what's going on here now. So basically what's going to happen is that this is going to keep incrementing until it basically matches the previous indent. Okay, did you understand that? Well, I hope you did. It's confusing, I know. Just think about it, and just, if you want to, I'll again have this code available for download, or what, it'll be on my website most likely. So you can just go there and try it out, include some print statements here and there, try it out, okay? But of course, we're still not done. There's still one more thing we need to add. We actually need to add in the indent and the, spacing. And actually, now that I notice it, I believe there's a slight bug here. This is actually supposed to be insert. We didn't notice this earlier because they're pretty much the same thing, actually. Because index 1 was actually the index for the insert function, but it's best to keep this at insert. I just noticed this just now, okay? So yeah, sorry about that. But I'm going to copy paste this over here, actually. That's how I noticed, because we need these again. Okay, I'm going to come over here. And what do I want to do? Do I want to move to the next line? No, I don't. Because right now we're just checking the indent, okay? So I just want to indent it, okay, by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and over here, I'm going to write plus 5 characters. Okay? Okay, just one more thing. I'm going to copy paste this over here. Now, I know this is redundant, and I know this is not optimized. I know we could do this better, but this is just, I'm just a bit tired out, and we'll just end this at this, basically. Now, if I've done everything correctly, what's going to happen? If I've done everything correctly, basically, we're going to find out the previous index. Okay, and if it's a semicolon, what's going to happen is that we're going to indent it. Okay, and then it's going to check that was the last line already indented. So if it is, then it's going to basically keep indenting it until we've made up for that difference in indentation. Okay, and on the other hand, if it's not a semicolon, what's going to happen is that we're going to come down here, and that it's going to check is the previous indent of the line above you, the first line basically, and the second line is basically the one we're going to, okay? So is the first line, is it indented? Because if it is, then the second line should be indented too, right? So, to match. So basically that's what's happening over here. we're moving to the next line, okay, because we've returned break, and returning break means that the insert cursor won't move by itself, okay, so we need to move it down. And then over here we basically kept indenting it until it made up that indent difference. So I really hope everything worked out correctly and this is working. So print hello, okay, it's working normally, I guess, so that's good. Now I'm gonna do a code block. If there's an error, okay, luckily it's a silly one, so there's self over here somewhere on a widget. Oh, it's over here. Just remove that and run this. So if, okay, good. Now let's try making another code block within this. Great, it works. And this is basically working because of the feature we just added. Otherwise, in the previous one, we couldn't make nested code blocks. Okay, and because we have the previous indent detection also on, this will also work as well. See? Awesome. And yeah, we're officially done with this now, and we're officially done with our Tkinter project series and our layout series. So we've done a lot of code. I think this in total spans about 200 lines of code or something, if I remember correctly. Let's just check it out. Yeah, it's 216 lines of code. Okay, so this was a lot, and I know this was like the toughest project we've made actually. And the videos, both videos combined, I think are gonna end up at like an hour long. But I think we learned a lot. I think this video very comprehensively covers the entire text widget and its entire tag and mark system, okay? I think we've actually poked into literally almost every function, almost every option available. We've taken a look at so many different things here that I don't think that there'll be another video like this on the internet where we've actually looked into tags and marks into so much detail. So much of this I actually learned while making this video, because I actually did this because I was interested in learning about tags and marks. And then I just decided to make a video on it because I didn't notice anything else on the internet. There is some good documentation, like it's only a single page though, and some people need a video to actually understand all this, like me, because I understood a good deal of it from the tutorial, but making the video, actually working on it, is what actually helped me understand. So I hope the same goes for you guys as well, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you want to see future videos like this and stuff, because there will be a lot more, maybe in Tkinter we won't be working on projects again, unless maybe something later on, but there'll be a lot more smaller ones, okay, teaching important concepts and a lot more important stuff, okay. There'll be a lot of links in the description below for other stuff you can take a look at. If you haven't already checked out the previous videos in this series, the other 4 projects that we made, then go do that, okay. Leave some feedback for next time, I guess, and that'll give me an idea about what to make. So yeah, thank you for watching if you've been watching from the start of the series, and yeah, I'll see you guys in some other video.